gonna be a long, long time. We're here with a lot of the other Goonies. Wrath of Wall, Riddler Man. We're all just trying to get our bearings, figure out how we want to team up. But this is going to take us probably at least until the new Borderlands game in March and other MMOs that are coming later.
Right. The only thing I see with the whole game is that I don't see it offering much much in the not offering anything really special, but at least it looks competently made. That's that's not a guarantee, you know.
Well, I've been playing it now for a while, and other than the fact that the Steam achievements won't pop for me, they pop for everybody else, but not for me. I see them in game though. Yeah, they'll fix it. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and that's how it's got to be. You know, if it's not enjoyable, then
yeah, but still, it's there's no guarantee a game is competently made. That's even with the modern capabilities, that is not a guarantee. It is sad. This is just.
That's correct. So you have to play it to find out.
It's unfortunately even with being able to patching, games are still horrible at.
I know. That's why I'm glad I tried it. And now I see that it's a good one.
But yeah, I also don't have the resources to keep buying. Can't buy too many games. I don't have the resources for that.
Well, that's because you work for Daniel.
No, I don't work for him. I work for myself. I haven't really done any work for him in ages, because he's an ass to deal with. No, I'm just figuring out how to milk him for content and potential business deals and such. Milk him for knowledge and content. So I'm definitely making a video out of his rant about how irritated he is about some people respond because he accidentally misgendered someone in a Twitch conversation. In a Twitter conversation. This is so much assault. Honestly, I think the whole gender pronoun thing is a bit too. Most of the people who grasp onto it is just. I just found another thing to be fanatic about. So but the thing is, if you accidentally stumble into an argument with a zealot, it's never gonna end well because they have a seal for whatever it is about for a reason. And I just did right. There's a reason why you call why fan is a short for fanatic.
Yeah.
Because it is essentially just that. You get a little bit too happy with whatever you are interested in or care about. That if anyone should, if anything disagreeing with that, is gonna seen as a slight, and you have to fight. So yeah, humans are kind of broken, aren't we?
Oh, wouldn't have them any other way.
Such wonderfully nuanced beings, capable of terrible things. And being complete asshats.
Everyone has their own experiences with things. Expect.
It's just irritating when you run across some of those. It's just that. I mean, I know some people that can't take the idea of change at all. I mean, I had an acquaintance of mine. I was saying that in Elite Dangerous, which is, you know, essentially the space trucking simulator with some combat and mining if you can be arsed. Whole point is, I would really like a way to do to have a way to just upload a virtual version of your ship, so we can have like an essentially just have a virtual battlefield where you can upload your kick-ass ship and fight against other people without having to travel to. Without everyone having to be in the same exact system. Because when somebody is on the other side of the edge of the galaxy, it's gonna take a while for them to come back, you know. But the concept of having something like this, we got into heat argument because he couldn't see. He likes the game the way it is. I just want more, you know, content. That because engine, the concept is brilliant, but execution is just. I want more.
Oh, of course. And you deserve it. To get what you pay for.
And besides, having a good versus mode where you can upload your custom ships and fight against other players, that wouldn't be out the realm of possibility in a game of that nature, because you know, it would just be like online and it would be like an in-universe online game. As they had a multiplayer thing called CQC, but that thing wasn't very popular, and you had 3 preset ships in a small in a preset battlefield. But I want to be able to take the big, huge kick-ass ships and fight against other players, but I don't want to travel the whole galaxy to reach another player who potentially wants to fight. You know? I don't want to travel a solar system and beyond just to find one single person and possibly have a battle.
Yeah. Right.
Plus, I don't want to pay the price for having to repair the ship if it accidentally get damaged. Because, you know, there's one because it's expensive to rebuild a ship, and it's terrible to have your cockpit blown out, so you have to fly to the nearest station without a proper HUD on life support. But hell, people even get into combat about get combative about the idea of wanting of controller support for for Diablo, for example. That no, I think mouse and keyboard superior PC Master Race is like.
Of course, that's me.
But ironically enough, though, there's always been controllers on a PC on PC platforms in one way or another, though. For example, Amiga had this horrible joystick with 2 buttons, for example, or you could connect a could actually connect a PlayStation, a Nintendo controller and a Sega controller actually to the Amiga.
I never tried that.
Oh, it works. Especially since most games only use 1 or 2 buttons and arrows. But it works, you just take it from the console and put it into the computer.
That's why I was 1980s. Those decades were so good.
The only thing with those, with that, I don't really miss from the Amiga thing is that a horrible, the horrible mouse.
Trying to remember it, I'd have to Google image.
No, it's not that different from a normal mouse. It's just that design-wise, the thing is, the button was on top of a hollow space, right? While a modern button has something under it, which means that eventually the Amiga mouse would, the button would just break and fall into and break off and fall into the well, the box the mouse was composed of, into the plastic.
Yeah.
The plastic would just snap, so it's like, yeah, I don't miss that at all.
That rings a bell, actually. Well, don't forget that in those days there were no lasers or infrared. It was all a trackball inside the mouse.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. It's just that the design logic was that let's just have a hollow box with that trackball in, right? And have the button basically just hanging above that empty space. That's not a. That's just. That was just a very consumer unfriendly approach to it. That's all. Because the only thing that really goes wrong with these modern mouses is generally that the cable fucks up somehow. Unless you're using wireless, but at least the button will not snap off, you know. And that's kind of good. That's kind of nice. Because I hate replacing hardware because of bad design.
It's designed to last just so long, and then
I think one of the worst offenders was that I had brought this fancy keyboard, right? And you know what the keyboard had? It had these 2 little nubs that was holding the wire in place, like but they weren't connected with a plate at the bottom. So one of these little nubs slowly but surely chewed its way through the wire. So I was using the keyboard and suddenly just smelled burnt plastic. Like, what the hell is going on? Oh. And you know what the worst part is? It was fixed by a small piece of a flat thing I just slid in between those two, that slot.
That's yeah. It's so scary though. You know, we talk about Amiga and Commodore and things, and these, you know, relatively older, well, say older, but legal adults have no clue. And even when you talk about things much more recent than that, many people just don't have any idea. It just shows how old we are.
It's just it's not have nothing to do with age. It has just to do with ignorance and interest, really.
Maybe, yeah, it could be.
Seriously, a lot of people doesn't really seek out knowledge of any sort, and the only reason I know anything about these is that I had a friend who had a lot of this stuff. That's all. As personally, I've never owned a computer before I had a Windows machine, Windows XP.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a question of seeking out, of just wanting to seek knowledge. The way I always look at it is you might wind up on a game show and the $1 million question comes up and you know the answer.
But I have to admit, though, the Amiga had this workbench software which was revolutionary for its time.
Well, remember you had to put in Kickstart first, the Kickstart disk,
Oh yes.
the OS, and then Workbench.
But I just find it very fun how you could had a text-to-speech function already back then on a floppy. Yes.
Those were the days.
You could write words and have the computer pronounce them. That's it was flawed and everything, but it's it worked, you know.
Oh yeah. And the Macintosh, of course, back then also had some speech. Hello. Such as it was. Such as it is. What? Oh. Brightwood Hamlet. I guess I don't need that.
It's a bit like, you know, when somebody's judging many times when there's some people, like, for example, being judges at a cosplay competition, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
They often only have knowledge of the few series that they are very fanatic about and know nothing else. But the reason I know of more than that is because I've just been seeking them actively out, you know, to find good entertainment. Checking out what people recommend beyond the latest and greatest thing.
That's, yeah. I mean, as an artist, you have to.
Yeah.
Keep up with the Joneses.
At least there's one. There's also at least one thing I do that. At least one thing I'm capable of that seems a lot of people really would benefit from. It's to accept the good suggestions and try it out eventually, or change something around.
Of course.
Essentially, being open to suggestions is not a bad thing. Yet some people will try to castrate you if you just by the mere thought of it.
That's definitely how the conservative design works to some people.
That seems like all sides would have that issue these days. At least the two main sides in American politics is just like, are you people just looking for Are you just looking for a fight, or are you trying to solve anything? He's like, nope. I don't know. You're just awfully combative and refuse to talk. And somehow worship different politicians who is not worthy of worship. El Presidente, the people are demanding a re-election. El Presidente. You have been accused of election fraud. Why does politics start to feel like a game of Tropico? You just have a banana republic in the middle of nowhere, where the goal is essentially just to get as much money as possible, then retire with your Swiss, along with your Swiss bank account. Or leaving the people high and dry.
High and dry.
While being surrounded by both the Soviet Union and the USA. And for some reason, the little island is totally not a amalgamation of Cuba. But still, there is something to be said when one of the quotes in the game is literally when El Presidente, the people are demanding a re-election. That's when it's time to buy the voters.
Yeah.
One thing though, at least, it would be fun if more online games had a bit more combat in the style of Genshin Impact, in the way that it's at least feels interactive. It actually is skill based instead of just the cooldown based. But that's the easy way to make a huge ass world with millions of players. You just have a calculator doing all the rolls, and then you just
It's more or less how they're doing it now.
That's exactly how it's done. It's just a different iteration of the same concept, but to have a habit of always feeling a bit floaty. It's always a bit silly when you see for example, in Warcraft, you lock onto something, or you try to run away at the right moment, Then you see the bullet curves in a 45-degree angle. The projectile just keeps following you. Because the number generator decided that was a hit. You are gonna get hit and you cannot avoid it. You can even see that in the Black Desert in how the enemies are not really doing much. Sure, you can flip around and juggle a whole lot of them, but in the end, the enemy is not like particularly impressive. In fact, they are rather lackluster. I hit.
Yes. Well, there are different modes, like the Korean mode. Final Fantasy Online, seems to be more along the lines of it's just the presentation is different. Let's put it that way. Black Desert Online is a great presentation. I enjoy the graphics are good. The open world is really good.
The thing with the Black Desert though is that the story itself is the whole plot and everything was was very forgettable.
Yeah, you've got that little ghost.
Yeah, that was in theory a very not a cool thing, but the rest was kind of there was a plot, there was a villain. I don't remember. I don't remember the villain. I know there was one, but I don't remember it. The only thing I remember was the stupid amount of bandits in the rebel camp. And that's about it really, and the black thing with the big teeth. It's like...
Oh, yeah.
So, when that's all you remember from a game, then there is something... then I do believe there is something missing from the experience.
It's very forgettable. Elder Scrolls Online is not forgettable. It's just incomplete, I want to say.
Yeah, also if I were
Also,
if I were to play it, I would suffer from serious lag. Too much latency. And that's due to the server locations, and that was before I had this terrible 5G network to deal with. I mean, seriously, they are upgrading the cable, the old bronze cable, the copper cable, right? But in order to do so, they give everyone has to get a wireless a box that is connected to the cell phone network.
right.
And you know what's not really good for stable latency? The frigging cell phone network. 5G might be fast and all, but that doesn't mean it's the traffic isn't horrible. So, for example, I cannot really play properly. It's a very hard time playing League of Legends, for example, where you need a stable, stable ping in order to actually, you know, play the game properly. The way it is at the moment is like suddenly it goes from 72 to 600 out of nowhere. And that means everything just stops. And that's kind of bad, you know, in a real-time experience against other people. Can you imagine why? You're suddenly losing connection in the middle of combat in a duel against a deadly enemy. I even notice it when I play Genshin. But due to the nature of the game, it's not that intrusive. It just means that you click on a chest and 5 seconds later it suddenly picks up the item.
We play Genshin. Did you stream that?
Yes.
Oh, you mean, okay, Genshin. You're right.
Genshin Impact.
Yeah, it's we were watching that together, and then your friend came in. You said you had him on Steam or in-game.
Oh, somewhere at least, yeah.
Genshin. Yeah.
But still, at least the worst thing that happens when the latency strikes is it just takes 5 seconds longer to pick up the loot.
That's unacceptable.
It's not like you're stopping in the middle of the action and somebody shanks you. The classic in that regard is the classic in that regard is the good old Counter-Strike, where if there's a latency issue, suddenly you could shoot someone and they were just glitching all over the place, and suddenly they could kill you because they were technically not there when you shoot them.
Yeah, that's true in a lot of games. Not unique by any stretch.
But for example, World of Warcraft somewhat mitigates this by having that very floaty calculation-based combat. That's the reason why all of these games feel so floaty and weird in that regard. Because it's the easiest way to achieve multiplayer with a multitude of people. It's just making it somewhat turn-based. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a very... It's the most fun way to play. It works, but still.
Well, like you said, it's about Genshin. It's a business, you know.
Oh yes.
And it'll be free to play, but it's a business.
One issue is the irritating thing though is that if everybody uses the same as almost as different version of the same system, and you've played some of the best that has the system, and you grow tired of the system, then it doesn't matter if someone else reskins the corp, reskins it, because it's still the same thing you're doing over and over again. It's a vicious cycle, really. So, in that regards to the game you're playing, right? Is what how is the how is the intro sequence like?
The intro sequence has a decent story to it, and of course you're in a lot of trouble, and you need to figure out what to do. You can YouTube it. You'll be impressed.
Let it go, let it snow. Murder everything now, right? Boy.
Black Desert Online had a very good opening movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the introduction and presentation is brilliant, but then it just becomes a bit is silly, especially when you consider the world economy of the world.
Well, that's a good point. The economy here is a real economy. Like, for example, Riddler Man and I have joined a guild. They call it a company, actually, in this game. We've joined a company. And the company, when you take over a territory through combat, when you open the main world map, you'll see the territories match the color of your company faction. You get to set all of the taxes for using the crafting stations, trading, joining, how much gold with each transaction you must give to the company for the coffers. You get to, the guild leader gets to decide all of these things. And if it's agreeable and they're doing a good job and the economy matches, the players are happy, they get to stay as the leader. You're actually like the mayor of the towns in the region. So you need to log on and play the game. If you don't, then you're going to get, someone else will just get voted into your position. So it is a real true economy.
Just that on its own make it a lot more engaging, just because there's, for example, Black Desert is all about just harnessing what shit ton of silver, buy some stuff, and then everything has a set price. You just need to find a way to farm enough silver.
Right now, actually, in my game, I'm farming gold, which is very hard to find. Silver is even hard to find. And what I'm doing is I'm going to the most dangerous, remote parts of the map that no one else dares go to. And sure enough, in the mountains, you can find these rare minerals. And I will studying jewel crafting, so I'll make gems and rings and amulet and sell them at the marketplace in the territories that we own. So because I'm a member of the guild, I pay less tax, get a tax break. And the people, the other players who buy, and anyone is welcome in a town. It can even be from a different company, a different faction. But they will pay top dollar. The currency is so they will pay through the nose for things that they make. I learned this obviously on YouTube watching the beta. And I'm earning a huge living, and I give my fair share of the tax, a small amount of tax to the company. Otherwise, they'll throw me out, and then I'll be on my own, getting perks. So I'm making a very good living because I'm taking a risk going to these dangerous places that are way above level. So I got to creep around the bushes and through the trees. Most players don't want to do that. They just want to power level through. Go on big raids. It's not me. Eventually I'll have to. So this is the most fun MMO I've seen so far, and thanks to Reason, it's brand new. I need to figure out what to destroy. I'm over too much inventory. Another thing they did right is in the rarity colors. White, common is, well, that's in any game. White is white. But green items are always worth a look and possibly to sell. Blue is rare. That's true to its name. Blue items really are rare. So they did. It's not like Borderlands where everything is legendary.
but Borderlands uses basically the already existing the thing. It's just a system inspired by Diablo.
Correct.
I mean, almost all the games just uses the rarity example that Diablo invented. Visually.
Yeah.
But still, there is something to be said for finding... But, you know, sometimes I would rather find a crap ton of rare stuff instead of just a crap ton of white stuff. And that serves no purpose.
Right. White stuff is you can craft, like if you go to a crafting station and you want to make armor or weapons or anything, you're guaranteed, if you have the resources, it's guaranteed to be white. Big surprise. Now, if you add magical essence called Azoth, if you add Azoth, which you find in the field, you increase your chance that it will be green with some interesting perks on there. Like in Borderlands, the details of what the gun does down below the card gets filled out. If you add a gemstone, and it's a good quality gemstone, then the odds go up even further that it might become blue. So it's about what you invest besides just the resources like the stone or the silver that you found. What you add to it increases the chance that what you're crafting will be better qualities to keep for yourself or to sell. Of course, if you do sell it on the open market, you have to pay a small amount of tax to your company. So, but you can just drop it on the ground and give it to people. Like Borderlands, you can drop things and they can pick it up.
Well, at least it seems like they put a lot of thought into the whole thing. That's not a guarantee either.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind the game has only been out for 3 days, so it's banking on the beta technology that was invented, and Amazon is coming up with updates regularly. We've had several big updates so far that have improved. I'm running on a very old computer, my normal computer, and it runs just fine. Even though it says you need Windows 10, it's running great on Windows 7.
Philistine. Windows 7? What are you? Some sort of monster? You should only run Windows 98.
I still have a Windows 95 laptop that I bought in 1996. It cost $3,600 for the basic little, simple laptop. Well, they were all simple. $3,600. Today, if you spend that, $3,600, you get the most powerful gaming beast.
Oh yes.
Asus ROG giant gaming laptop, which I'm still considering, by the way. I haven't ruled it out. Because I can hook it up to my big monitor, mouse and keyboard and all of that. And it's self-contained. It's got everything you need. With a 3070 or 3080 mobile card in there. I cannot complain.
Okay, that would be stupid. That's something we probably do too much of, but still. In my case, it's not always much complaining as trying to figure out exactly why it's not working, what is wrong and how to fix it, because, or what I'm looking for, because geez, sometimes it's so irritating. It's like, why is it this way? How can I change that?
So you are interested in solving problems, not blaming people.
Exactly, I'm always striving towards solving an issue, because blaming, just only blaming and complaining, it's just not gonna leave. It just is too much negativity, and that is a real killer.
But it's more fun.
It ruins your mind after a while.
It corrupts your brain.
Yes, there's some people that are so negative full time that is like they're not capable of seeing anything positive anymore. And so, such people are not pleasant to be around, to be honest.
Oh, I know.
I mean, there was this.
know the-
Went to school with this one girl, right? And she was like, always, "Oh, I could never do that. I'm not good enough." Blah 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 blah. It's like, ugh. Whatever. You're just irritating. What you were saying?
No, I was agreeing. That's. I know the type. You know, and we've all been guilty of.
Oh, naturally, but the thing is, if you're, I would strive toward finding a way to sort of solve that, you know, to change it instead of suffering. So, for example, if I don't like the gameplay experience, right, and I'm just gonna stop playing the game.
That's why YouTube is so great, because before YouTube, you had to rely on the reviews, and you didn't get a chance to play it a little first to see if you like it. But now you get to actually just virtually play the whole thing if you want.
Um, exactly. It's like, for example, many games that you can sort of be a bit nostalgic to, right? But in all honesty, a lot of these nostalgic games, they are kind of shit. They were good for what they had, some brilliant idea, was decent enough back in the day, but now that I have better alternatives, it's an or polished alternatives, I can't go back.
No, same here. We are.
As an example, right? Tomb Raider, the newer Tomb Raider games are. The control scheme is more generic for modern day, but it's so much more comfortable to play and so much less buggy. Even if the original had more fun gameplay and setup, instead of, because everything now needs so lavish Hollywood style set pieces, but I can't say the whole grid based movement can't say the whole grid based movement that a game like like the original Tomb Raider essentially had, because The Rise of the Tomb Raider is a decent enough, but I didn't like the story. It's so forgettable experience, but the controls and everything were good. But the original games had something memorable about them, but the whole world was essentially just a grid-based experience, so with clunky lock-on and horrible combat against terrible enemies.
I was more of a fan of the Uncharted series, especially Uncharted 2. I believe everybody agrees that Uncharted 2 was the best of the 4 games.
Yeah, but Uncharted 2 take a lot of the Tomb Raider formula and just make it better. But the thing is, it's still just a whole bunch of very overly lavish set pieces, and once you played one Uncharted or two Uncharted games, they lose a lot of their luster because it just becomes action, 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 action. More over the top physics. There's only so many buildings collapsing around you can play through before it gets a bit stale. I wonder why. It's almost like you get a bit you get a bit full on you get a bit full and bloated on high octane action set pieces where everything blows up, things collapses, and you have to run like an idiot or die.
Yeah.
Or having to watch the main character you have been kicking ass through the whole game suddenly having to waddle around the last half with entrails on display while hobbling towards the final confrontation. It brings me out of the story completely. Because it's trying too hard to be Hollywood. I mean, both Metal Gear, Mass Effect, Tomb Raider, Sleeping Dogs, they all... whoever directed those games suddenly wrote the stories, decided they just need to have a real terrible down moment for the hero, right? But that the down moment doesn't match the story and the actions you can do in the game. So it just becomes irritating and takes you out of the experience. Sure, the first time it might be okay, but when you experience this 3 or more times in different games, you experience the same irritation in more than one game. It's just like, okay. I think I am a bit full on $1 million set piece experiences from AAA developers. I think I've eaten too many of those. I just have a sneaking suspicion, you know.
You might be right.
And again, it's the same reason why I'm not watching a lot of Hollywood movies. They all feel the same.
Well, the Hollywood movies, the big blockbuster, well, actually all Hollywood movies, they follow a formula.
Exactly, and once you grow tired of the formula, then you're not once you grow tired of a formula, it's you stop caring. No matter how much
That's why I like.
Hmm?
Well, indie movies don't have to follow the formula.
One movie that was actually fairly decent in that regard is Alita.
Alita?
Alita Battle Angel.
Oh, okay.
Because that is because it's based on a long-running manga series. It took ages for James Cameron to manage to make an adaptation of. Just the first half. It sort of follows the normal structure, but it doesn't end in. The thing is, the typical Hollywood movie, you will always end with a epic fight against the final villain. Always has to be an epic showdown.
A boss fight.
Yes. And it's like, so it's a bit interesting to see when you run across a movie that doesn't have a sort of boss fight. Then again, I'm expecting like maybe 50 more movies though. I'm not sure. I don't think Dune also has like any final boss fights in that regard. This is just the first part of a long ass story. But I've heard it's supposed to be good. But it's not like you play. But you're not expecting like Bruce Willis being battle bruised and going up against some mustache twirling villain monologuing.
Well, they have to twirl. I've never actually seen a villain do that.
Ironically enough, though, I haven't really seen many villains with mustaches.
You will never get away with
I
this.
suppose it's roughly inspired by. I suppose it's somewhat inspired by some series I probably haven't seen. Like a Buck Rogers or something. I don't know.
There is you can actually YouTube it, but there's a very famous villain named Dick Dastardly.
Oh yes.
Cartoon character.
Yeah, I know, from Wacky Racers.
Right? And what was the dog's name? Like
Muttley.
Chumley or something?
Muttley.
Muttley. Right. And he would go,
But the whole thing with Dick Dastardly is that he's he's looking like a First World War fighter pilot. And back then, they had usually had mustaches. It's sort of the whole thing with like the mustache of Hitler, right? Is one made for gas masks.
Yeah. Muttley. That's right. Something like that. Yeah. Well, mustaches have always been either in or out of style. You say, how can you say that? Well, you don't see anybody with Hitler mustache anymore. Must be out of style.
Oh. Oopsie daisy. Working as intended.
There you are.
So, how does the so in the game you're playing, how does the death system works? What do you lose when you die?
You lose your gear, the health of your gear. You take damage to everything in your inventory. So you have to repair using scrap. If you break down a sword that you don't want, you'll get some scrap from it. Or you can purchase or build your own repair kits. If you love your old weapons so much that you can't part with it, you can make repair kits or buy them. But I always just melt down or scrap old stuff and repair my items that got damaged. But that's it. Also, the inconvenience of spawning back in a town. So if you were far away, like I was, mining for gold, I have to now walk all the way back over there. So unless there's you find a fast travel station nearby, but those cost Azoth, sort of like that mana currency. They cost to use fast travel. So everything has a slight cost to it. So you don't want to die for no reason, unless you're so wealthy that you can use death as a fast travel.
Right. But yeah, Genshin does one thing right though, it tickles that exploration fancy.
It does. The game that I'm playing does too. It's very similar in the way you explore, but obviously the graphics are very different because you have to pay money for this and you don't have to pay for that.
Yeah, but this way of exploring the world and finding stuff is clearly the approach that will be used in practically all such games from now on.
Agreed.
Whether you like it or not, it still is. It's more or less what to be. It's the template everyone will use.
Indeed.
But it also makes the world a lot. It also gives. But if you have hide treasures and stuff to find all over the place, right? You actually have a reason to explore. The big challenge with a lot of open world experience is that it just you got the point and it's like, is there any point in picking up these things? Yes, no, maybe. Do I care? Not really. You know, it comes a case of how much do you actually care about finding 3 pieces of scrap metal that can upgrade your weapon in for example, Far Cry. There's only so much random, pointless loot you want to pick up before you find out that you can complete the game without it, and it doesn't really add anything, really. I played, me and a friend played Ghost Recon, right? And you need to collect resources for different stuff to upgrade. But in the end, what we did was, sure, you could find along the road side, you could find loot, like barrels of resources and people to kill to get the resources. But it was easier to just spawn a helicopter, fly towards a supply truck, and just shoot the driver and escort, and just mark the truck and get a lot of resources and a bit action at the same time. And just fly towards the next spawning truck and just snipe the driver from the helicopter.
Yeah.
So that suddenly made all the small bite-size loot containers around in the terrain just pointless. Because it made also vehicles practically pointless because you could just fly everywhere with the helicopter you could get for free. And if you have a co-pilot, it even comes with the weapons on the side. So right, I just hover in place, and my friend would just take out his rifle and just shoot it and shoot the motor block of the truck. Then we would just land and mark it and fly away. Naturally, it was kind of fun though, but the whole point is it sort of removed a large chunk of the game by the simply just. And the world itself didn't really have anything. You didn't have any reason to explore it either, because there wasn't really anything to pick up. But the most disappointing thing about Ghost Recon Wildlands is it doesn't even look like Bolivia. I looked it up on a map. The geography is completely wrong. Even if I dumbed it down, I just made it completely nonsensical.
私に答えているの。
Which is a bit a shame, really, because you would think with all of the copy pasting Ubisoft is doing, they would at least invest in a bit better topography maps. It is a bit the same with Cyberpunk as well. Is that there's some stuff to do in the world and to see, but in the end, it's not really that many things, and it's the same thing with GTA. You just get to a point where you don't really care about all the stuff you can potentially find and just go with whatever.
吸引テスト開始。
That's right.
頼んだわよ。
For example, in the earlier GTA games, like even from 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, you could collect a lot of collectibles you could get to in order to, you know, progress. And you know, for example, if you collect the 10 all 100 packages, hidden packages in GTA 3, you would have all of the weapons available at your hideouts. But at some point, you don't really care about picking up all the packages. You just become, why do I even bother? I don't need them. But it just becomes a hassle.
Yeah.
Essentially, if a world becomes too empty and bland, then you don't really feel like going somewhere. You're just going towards the objective markers, and that's it. Let's face it, it is a art itself to populate a setting with things. And that's not easy. But if you succeed, then people will remember it.
Indeed.
And of course, then you have the Ubisoft approach, where the whole world is it's a bit empty, really. It has some interesting things, but once you've seen those, I'm just gonna go do the story now. Then again, Ubisoft is quite clever in that they are literally doing the same thing a lot of Japanese game developers do. They just... once they have the mechanics that works, they use that for everything and only upgrade small iteration of it every time. It is a bit interesting in that regard, because it is a clever way to sell a product. You know, you just... Oh, here is... you like Far Cry? Well, we have reskinned it and put in a new story and setting. But it still plays like Far Cry. It still looks like Far Cry. You still mark targets on the map, and you have a drone. And some survival mechanics and looting. Enjoy! Oh, here's a new Far Cry. Hey, guess what? More of the same, but we updated the models. And reskinned it.
And so now you just pay all.
よかった素材がたくさん
That's what this New World game that I'm playing, that's what it looks like, is Far Cry 6. Same kind of graphics. Far Cry 5 also had great graphics. I guess it kind of looks like that too. It's sort of like Far Cry, but as an MMO.
But there's one thing with graphics though, is that that's the easiest thing to do these days.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you could make games more graphically impressive than they are now, realistically wise, but that wouldn't change much, impact the gameplay much in any way.
よしおお
The only place, the only place where improved graphics will change something is in augmented reality. But that's more of getting a good tactile experience than anything else. But until they make better AI, find a way to make AI more interesting, then the graphics will not change the gameplay much, you know. But making it look good is surprisingly easy.
Yeah, once you have the rendering and the models, how the models pop in and stuff, I suppose you just reuse it again and again.
Because once you have the production pipeline up and running and engine, you can just that's the easy part. The hard part is to make something that people actually want to play, to make it interesting enough for people to care. And no graphics will change that. But let's face it, some of the most interactive and engaging games kinda look like shit. For example, games like Rogue has a fantastic amount of stuff you can do, right? But or Dwarf Fortress. But the basic graphic is just symbols on the keyboard.
Yes.
Yet you can get hundreds of hours of gameplay enjoyment out of it, despite your character being just being a at symbol at the keyboard.
I think Dwarf Fortress is one of the greatest inventions, considering how old it is, and it had such a following. I had friends who would, at work, or in various places of business, saying, looking at their watch. What are you looking for? What's the hurry? Well, I want to get back home and play Dwarf Fortress.
But that's an example of a game where an example of that graphic isn't everything. It's sure nice to have, but if the game doesn't have anything but graphics, you're gonna end up like that game by what was it, Bethesda, That was all about. That was with those jetpacks and those flying. I don't remember what this was called, but it was very hyped for a while. Then it came out and it was kind of shite, but it looked good. But actually, graphically speaking, though, the most important part is really having a good, I suppose, is having a good art direction. I mean, in Valheim, it's the texture-wise and all of that, it doesn't look very impressive if you're going to look for them compared to, you know, New World, right?
Yeah.
You can't compare them that wise, but mood-wise and art direction-wise, they are miles apart. But Valheim deliberately went with it's a deliberate choice. It's not trying to be pretended to be realistic. Neither is like Genshin Impact. I don't think it would be half as good if it tried to look realistic. I don't think it.
Some games work very well with being realistic. They really do. Like, for example, this MMO. You have to be somewhat realistic, or people won't play, because it's such a, MMOs, as you were saying yesterday, are such a grind.
It's also a very saturated market. So you need graphics and something interesting for people to do. Otherwise, it's just going to be. Otherwise, people are just going to drop it after a week. And an online game without players is much of an experience.
収穫だね。
So, what type of character are you playing?
Right now, I'm a DPS. This is just the easiest to create. And but you can respec your character up until level 20. It's free. You don't have to pay any resources to respec. My idea was when Riddler Man invited me into the company was to be a healer, like in Borderlands, like Maya. More like a cleric class. But what I'm noticing is that this is bloody difficult. You really have to know what you're doing. I have to. Being responsible for a party as the healer is not an easy task.
Nope.
So you basically have three general builds. You've got your DPS, your tank, and your healer. But within the healing, fans have created subclasses. So your basic cleric or your shaman, which has the shaman is a healer, but it relies more on environment rather than direct healing of your friends. Creating rings that you can stand in. People can run over and stand in the health rings and get healed over time. Things like that. So I have to decide what kind of healer I want to be. And I think I'm going to wear heavy armor. Yeah, just a regular heavy cleric. I don't. It's not like D&D where if you're a healer, you have to wear light armor and carry a dagger.
Actually, that's a bit misnomer. That's not how healer works in D&D technically.
I know, in the old D&D.
In the old D&D, the whole thing with the reason why a healer ran around with, like a cleric ran around with a mallet, was because you did crush damage against, blunt damage against skeletons.
True.
It was easy, so you often had a shield and a hammer, because it was easy to crush undead with blunt trauma.
Right. This is more like Skyrim. Skyrim broke the mold, where you could just be anything you want. And it's kind of like that here. But when you're in a dungeon, dungeons are, or any sort of expedition like that. First of all, you have to create a key to get in. So one of the party members has to have a key, and they take a lot of resources to craft. Or you can just buy a key from the board, the town boards. Get in there. So 5 members is the maximum the party can be. And they recommend the meta right now. The meta is 3 DPS, 1 tank, and 1 healer. You can do whatever you want. You could have 5 tanks go in, but you probably won't win. And these dungeons have minions, a little boss, and then a big boss. And there's always some sort of overriding goal of the dungeon. Well, I was in a dungeon, my first dungeon ever yesterday. They say you should be at least level 25 before you attempt one. I was level 23. We go in, we had 1 healer and 4 DPSs. From what I could tell, I didn't see a tank. I didn't notice a tank, and I couldn't believe how much tactics there are. You really have to figure out what you're doing. It's not like Borderlands. You go and you start shooting everything.
Yeah, but in Borderlands, you sort of just you can in Borderlands though you can kind of bleed yourself through a lot of the challenges by just having someone revive you all the time.
Correct. Well, here, like the healer. We had to consult, and everybody was typing. Nobody was on voice chat at the time. Where should I place my healing ring? We'll place one on this corner, and if you have any mana left over, place one over there. And that way, because the boss comes out here, the respawn station is is around the corner, and so once you defeat a little room full of enemies, you have time to catch your breath and decide what you want to do next. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be like Maya, and I'm going to go around healing everyone with my life staff, which you can do. You can fire bolts of healing at people.
So that's what you
Like
call
Maya
it
did.
now.
Yeah.
I my rod of
Maya had.
healing.
Yep. Population staff. Uh, and so, yeah, the way that Maya had her bullets were healing bullets. If you have that skill tree going, the restoration skill in Borderlands 2, I figured no problem. I'll use my life staff, shoot at people, throw a ring on the ground, drop some health potions. That's me. I want to be the hero, the healer. Doesn't work like that because every little thing in this game has a separate skill rating that you need to improve. So firing your staff is a separate skill than throwing the ring on the ground. So you have to work on both of those skills. It's like, of course, MMO. So I decided to stay with DPS for now. I'm a heavy armor, heavy weapon kind of guy, so I don't move particularly fast. I can't dodge for shit, but that's normal. You can't dodge if you've got heavy armor on. You can sort of jump back a little, but you can't roll. And if I go to medium or light armor, then I'll be caught with my pants down when I switch over to cleric. You can have two separate characters in the game. Two separate characters and switch between them. That's kind of nice that they let you do that. I think the reason they do it is because people want to log on to different servers. Maybe one in US West and one in the EU. So that way I can play with you using one character at night, when it's night for me, and then switch over here to play with Riddler Man during the daytime. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that yet. I still am just using my primary character.
実験材料もこうして出てきたらな。
And the game is so big that I haven't met up with Riddler Man yet. I mean, I know he's in the game because I can see in Steam that he's playing, and in Discord. But we haven't found each other yet, although we really haven't tried. You can make little campfires anywhere in the open world if you have the resources. And when you sit at your campfire, you can cook any food that you found. So that's neat. You don't have to go back to town to create rations. You can cook it wherever you happen to be. And you can borrow other people's campfires too. If you see someone else's campfire that's on the ground, you can just go ahead and you sit down and use it. Very interesting.
I can see that. So, how do you avoid taking damage?
I hold if I'm using melee weapons, I hold down the right mouse button and he blocks. It's like a parry or block shield, or I hold my axe up in a defensive way. If I have a ranged weapon, then I hold down my right mouse button to aim, like Borderlands or like any normal game. Aim down your sights. But dodging is the best way. If you wear heavy armor, then what you do is instead of dodge, you jump backward a little to avoid damage. So it's the best that a heavy can accomplish.
And it certainly sounds a lot more engaging than a lot of games of that nature.
Exactly. And to their credit, they had a huge period of the alpha version, and then one of the longest betas that I've ever seen for an MMO. Years. And it was always a closed beta, and then they opened it for 2 weeks in about a month ago. They opened it. They were, or no, not 2 weeks. Sorry, it was 9, 10th, 11th, 4 days. 4 days. But the 2 weeks was how long ago it was. So 2 weeks ago they had an open beta for 4 days to test the servers.
So they
September 9th,
so
10th, 11th.
they didn't have this typical server crash on day one.
No, there was a 12-hour wait to get in on day one. 8 to 12 hours. For me, it was about 9. So I went and did a bunch of things, came back and played on day one. On day 2, instead of 8 to 12 hours, it was about 40 minutes. They cut it down to only 10% of the previous day wait period. So just under an hour. And then on day 3, no wait. And same here on day 4. So there's no wait any longer. Amazon tweaked the servers to let people in.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
It's at least a show competency. And that is commendable.
I'm very well. It's Amazon has all the resources in the wild. They basically own everything. And
They will rule the world.
yeah, they're the new Microsoft, for real. So they hired the best, and that's how it works.
You want the best? Here I am. Yeah, isn't like those who own the Twitter platform.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes I feel like Genshin might be feels like they're going a bit overboard with chests at times in where they're hiding them, or not. Oh, on top of this cliff there's a chest. It's like, okay.
実験材料も
Oh yeah, here is also another chest, and a chest next to that one. Let's randomly walk across the ground, and it suddenly just pops up the message dig. Okay. Hey, here's another treasure chest. Like, yay, treasure.
Yeah.
Click. Treasure. Click.
Of course. It's a business.
Yeah, but it's just feels a little bit silly sometimes when you find two or three treasure chests stacked on top of each other.
Well, they need to.
Put
Whoever
them.
put them there needs to level up their burying skills.
Sure, but it's just there feels a bit overkill. That's all.
You must place the chest.
I need to get this experience off my chest.
A waste.
この世界も私に答えているの
There's at least one thing Valheim has that very few game has, and that is the mood.
I liked Valheim. I'd like to go back to it. All they should do is add Steam achievements, and I'm back.
Yeah. The only because Valheim really feels like you're in a Scandinavian country, for better or worse.
Oh, well, of course. It's Valheim. That's where you are. You're in Val's home.
Valheim is like a world between. It's one of those in between worlds.
Anaheim is Anna's home. I live very close to Anaheim. It's where Disneyland is.
Yes, the least happiest place on earth.
よいしょ
I can't imagine why people go there. With COVID,
Nostalgia.
worst place you could be.
この箱中で寝れる
It's just people have been fed a steady diet of Disney for decades.
It's like, yeah, that's sort of the Amazon of the age.
But Disney is clearly a bit out of touch, has started to become quite out of touch. I mean, I've seen the latest Star Wars in action, and the movies, it's so impressive, we have made movies and stuff. It's like, yeah, they're not impressive. They were not that impressive. And then, we needed to change this because of the past, and we need to change this and that, and use a shit ton of resources on on changing stuff that
Hey,
people, that maybe 2 people in the whole world complain about. It's like, I think you're overcomplicating everything just slightly.
They are compensating. They're compensating for something missing.
And I just have poor management. And they're a big company. The bigger a company becomes, the more out of touch they become with reality. Well, the bigger a company gets, the more the worse it comes at making the stuff it was known for in the first place. And they often end up. And I see that a lot of the CEOs on top, they are not very good at making. Not always very good at making decisions.
Well, if they're a public company like Disney, then they should have the public needs to be a part of it.
Oh no! What it's not how it works. As you have a board of executives making demands, and then you have some vague idea of what you want, and then you half-ass it, and wondering why people complain when you're not making enough making money, or is popular anymore. For example, I am not entirely sure what's the point of so many remakes are these days. They remake everything. It's like, it's a bit it's starting to become a bit a bit too much, I'd say.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
it saves money.
who asked for a live action Beauty and the Beast, a live action Aladdin, and a 3D Lion Kings? Or Mulan for that matter. It's like, not entirely sure many people asked for that sort of product. Or more Star Wars movies with the boring plot and some uninteresting, unengaging characters, and no proper plan. But somehow they decided that this is a good idea. Surely we can do no wrong. Surely. You can see the same with Blizzard. They are really screwing up lately. From apparently, according to one of the previous bosses of Blizzard is one of the original ones. That's when the new people came in, when they started getting board members and such, and said it's time to make Blizzard into a real company. Essentially, just a money printing machine that doesn't really. Instead of a boutique business as it originally intended. But I just make a really good product and polish it best as possible, you know. Thing is, yeah. Some companies are just a little bit out of touch.
They don't listen to the shareholders.
They're not listening to anyone, it seems like. And you don't listen, and when people point it out, you just get angry instead. The perfect way to do everything, right? Ego. I have ego. My ego is important to stroke. Stroke my ego. Because I am just better than you. I have one successful movie. No, I know how to make all the movies. I find it interesting and a bit disturbing in that regard. Is that here in Norway, most people grew up on Christmas movies that can be seen every Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And one of them was called The Three Nuts for Ashen Potten, or whatever you call her in English. You know the one with the singing mouse and the dress and the glass slipper? Cinderella, right?
Right.
There's a movie, was a Czech movie called Cinderella, Three Nuts for Cinderella. And the thing is, apparently just recently made a Norwegian version of it. And it's like, I'm not, I certainly didn't ask for a remake of this movie. I certainly didn't demand or ask for a newer Norwegian version of this old movie. That was just a Czech movie that they just dubbed over with a narrator telling the story and being all the characters, while you can hear the character talking in the background in the original language. But someone went ahead and made a remake, so to speak.
Yes.
And I'm not entirely sure who asked for that. But we got one. And I'm probably not gonna see it. I can't be, because of reasons.
Yeah. If you have a reason, it's good enough for me.
Sometimes remakes can be good though. For example, certain older games that has the concepts that really will be really good to reuse. But sometimes they just miss the mark completely. I believe it was this game. What was it called? Oh yes. Yeah, apparently it got a remake of Legend of Mana. And for some reason they turn it 3D instead of with the sprites, and you see a tiny loading screen every time you walk into a new room. It's like nobody asked for this, and the original didn't have that problem. I can even see that There's this interesting old game called ActRaiser, made by Squaresoft, right? I suddenly and apparently now I see ads for a new game. They just made a remaster of it. I'm pretty sure practically no one knows what it is, and I only know it because a friend of mine played it for a bit after he stumbled across it on an emulator. And some people have nostalgic memories for it, but it's like, ooh, hell, even plays the same thing really with the game series Langrisser. Suddenly somebody decided to bring new life into it. It's a decent game, a bit easy, but the whole point is, it's like, I don't think anyone asked for it. It just happens for... Just out of the blue, someone gets the idea that, oh, this old thing here, let's revitalize it.
Save a lot of money by remaking the movies, games. Someone still has to do the work, but you don't have to garner any new ideas.
Well, but
It's all been done for you.
for example, if you take a Lion King, make it full completely 3D, right? I'm pretty sure you're not going to earn a lot of money on that. Because the production is going to be expensive as all hell. If not enough people care, then you kind of lost money, you know.
Make it an NFT. Here's my line. It's 3D. It's an NFT.
NFT
Now
movie. That's the next step, hey?
You sell on the sizzle, not on the steak. Whatever's new and exciting will make money.
品はあるか？どうだ？7号式モジュール。宝箱の出現理由研究したいな。はやてのごとく。行くぞ。きちんとしまっておこう。
This is so irritating. I would really want to go. I can't really do much. I can do things today, but I don't want to go outside. It is rain with the rain pouring down.
Oh, we don't have rain.
Here it's it's pouring down like there's no tomorrow.
But would there actually be rain if there was no tomorrow?
Yes. You just wouldn't be able to see it.
There's no tomorrow.
fine. I have like 50 of these bow. Hmm. Refinement. I'm feeling refined. Yes. It feels a bit weird to have a weapon called a debate club. Which is a giant club. It's a giant blunt implement of pain. Monday, Thursday, Sunday. Tuesday, Fridays.
Oh,
Ah, do. Hmm. There we go. Fine. Gonna be fine.
are you sure about that?
I tell you. Fine.
Not convinced.
Tough luck, chunk.
Good luck with that.
No, I just realized I had like several over 300 items of crystal of a certain type I can use to refine my used to get the to upgrade items. And suddenly you just get a stat boost from hell to hell and back.
That's good.
Of course, because you need to level up all the weapons by stuffing them full of items and using money.
Well,
And there is only one way to do it. Clicking a lot.
same here.
I just haven't noticed the item before because I don't really sacrifice things with 3 stars in order to, you know, level up stuff because it might be decent, it might have a use. But that was apparently a very silly thing to do. Because apparently I could have done it. Because apparently I could just I could just stuff it full of crystals and not sacrificing any item at all. But I didn't think of those crystals. I just like, I have those? Oh, I do. Over 300 crystals. I just cram them into items. Onwards to greater adventure, and then I'm probably gonna have to make some food, so I don't... yes, what am I supposed to eat today? Because I'm not planning to go to the store on a bike in this weather, and I can't be bothered with the bus, and I don't have a car, so I suppose I should just do with lentils, egg, and flour or something in that regard. Yeah.
Yosh. Oh. 安心して任せて。あなたのこと。食材は全部。
Oh yeah, unlike you lazy Americans, I do not have a McDonald's nearby. Mostly because I'm living on island out by the North Sea. We are not. It's not like you're gonna get a fast food. It's not like somebody's gonna bother to build a fast food place here.
私も興味が湧いてきちゃった。
Or should I say, it's not like it. It would probably not succeed. It's more like it, really. People have tried and failed opening up kebab restaurants here.
I think, well, I mean, I don't know, but that happened here too, and I think a more general Persian restaurant might do better, because most people don't know that there's a lot more to Persian food than just kebab.
Yeah, kebab and pizza is like, you need something more than just that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, well, oh, I mean, at Persian restaurants, I mean, you can get huge meals. You wouldn't even know that it's Persian, but it is authentic Persian cuisine, especially the rice dishes. They do more with rice than any other culture in the world. Of course, it's easy for me to say because where I live, we have. If you want to say, let's go for Indian food tonight, you say, you don't. You say, okay. You say, well, what do you mean? Do you mean Punjab or Southern Indian? And you have to be like,
hello.
oh, you know. You got to be specific here because we have it all.
Oh yes, but yeah, those raw kebab rolls are delicious, but but they're not very successful out here in the middle of the boons.
Oh,
I have tried and I have failed. The one that has succeeded the best is probably the one restaurant somewhere closer to Bergen now, which is famous here, and it has won a lot of local rewards for just having the best food, just being the best place that sells such stuff available. Oh, it's just a really good and tasty, good quality, clean and tasty place. Because there's always this stigma, based a little bit on racism and pre-notions, like, unhealthy, that weird rotating slab of meat pillar. They take cuttings off, and bit about unhygienic. It's like, it's like, there is those negative racial stereotypes of certain cultures and food. Like the joke about if a cat is missing, check your mouth for hair after eating the kebab.
oh,
It is absolutely nonsense, really. But a good one with lamb is incredibly tasty.
right. I like all three: lamb, chicken, and beef. You can even, you could substitute sheep, mutton. But yeah, they're all very, very good.
元気出してよ
Insanely good.
But I also find falafel isn't too shabby either. I'm not
Labo,
sure if you heard about falafel.
of course. You can buy it on the street. Street vendors.
Yeah, it's also actually it's a bit more it's healthy.
やっぱりニンニク味がいいかな
Sure, you could probably join. I'm just gonna kill this thing, kill a couple of bosses. I'm just gonna murder this long slumbering Earthshaker dragon. By Moog Geo Bishop.
早く投稿しなさい
Damn it. Quit lurking on the ground.
陣営のごとく熱々でしょ
I Hmm. It's okay, I suppose. Let's see. What was this Pyro Regis wine? Ah, that one has a lot of stuff. Sure. The pyro flower thingy.
私雨ってあまり好きじゃないんだ。
Oh, yeah. Oh, there is a chest I haven't taken. Really? Asshole. It's so irritating having to switch between characters. Sometimes because I find out that if you have two air characters, you get more speed and stamina recover and use less stamina.
Indeed.
Hello. Oi. There we go. Oh, and almost rank 30. Good, good. Thanks a lot. Let's see. That gives water upgrades. Is not buggered at all. I'm just gonna kill the wolf. I'm gonna need all of the loot that these things provide in order to get them. Right, you can increase the difficulty of the world. But don't do it too much, or you're gonna end up regretting it. Hey, level adventure rank 30. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Good. Not that I can access the adventure. The sightful water swirl in silence, one of Isma's westerly island, like an omen of disaster. Defeat the Hydra hypostasis hiding in a secret place, and quell its foul waves. It? Okay. Is a exist a hydrostasis? Yeah, an air.
Heavy on the quell. Make sure to do the quell.
Huh.
Don't quell. You aren't doing well.
I'm just gonna need all the stuff these things provide.
いけ吸引テスト開始。分身の術。
Round and round it goes. That's. I think you glitched out a bit there. Oh, but weekly treasure limit reached? What? Is that a thing? Really? Fucking limits. Right. I suppose I just do some commission and then I am going to take a break because I am gonna eat food. Then do something different and then do some exercise.
Okay.
Or, you know, something else. I'm not entirely sure yet, but something. That is not playing a game. Damn it! Okay. Are the healer churl stopped? Yes. What is that up? No. There's a healer churl shooting. I'm trying to. Are you out of reach now? Shut up. Hey. Alright, now we can take the damn chest. Huh. Right, the world rank has ooh, is it just I'm such a sucker. I must have it. So that means you're gonna drop by death from above, bitches. The thing is, once you see the loot, you cannot unsee it, and then you must seek it out. Whoa,
きちんとしまっておこう。
Brilliant diamond adventure rank reward. Ugh. Really? Would you look at this? There's a convenient slimes around the flower. Probably nothing here. Right, the chest just burned. I'll go to chest.
きちんとしまっておこう。
Anyways, daily commission. There's one in town and there's one over here. And let's see, how much resin do I have left? Wait, you go to map to check that. 81 or 2 bosses, I suppose. No, if I only could... I think there is something that is not working as intended, because you're supposed to be able to use elemental vision. I don't know how that works. Other than...
行くわよ。
You know what? Electrohydrostasis. I just want to kill it. Seems like a good idea. I need to use up my resin for the... my resin reservoir. Hypercube. Hey. Like, not an accessory per se. This is a random feather. Let's see, what is this daily commission?
What game are you playing?
Tales of yeah, come on, something.
Same
about
game?
yeah.
You sure? Sounds fishy.
I'm
to
as
me.
sure as the tide.
Eh.
Would like to join the Fatui. Kill a hilly churl thingy and listen to a Fatui tell a story about why you should join us. We are very brilliant. Yeah. Yes, another arrogant fool. Oh, reinforcements. Right. Ooh, I see a chest I haven't got. And cabbage.
A chest, you say?
Yes, I need to get this off. Need to get this off my chest.
旅の収穫だね。
And I found a chicken drumstick in it. Cryo. I'm gonna, I guess, with a cryo flower. Still get the reward for killing it.
You're killing it. Simply killing it.
Oh, and then I'm gonna go back to this building here and talk to the Fatui person. Get rid of the daily rewards. Yeah, I've noticed, and having it. It's interesting having two pyro gives more damage, or having two air gives more speed and stamina. So it wants you to juggle party members like there's no tomorrow.
Yes.
Just wish it would take was faster to switch out members. Because there's a deliberate loading screen that must not be interrupted before you can go into the character selection menu. For switching out the party dude.
Cannot be interrupted. Now, is that under any circumstances, or are there circumstances?
Under circumstances, because if the bar is interrupted, the process is stopped. It's a little bit of a dick move in some regards, because I find it a bit too low. Here's another stupid thing when it comes to Japanese with the Asian games though, names. Listen to this fantastic, it's like, we Fatui hail from Zapuliarny Palace. We hear the commands of Her Majesty, the Tsaritsa, and we inherit the will and enacting it through the land. Does not name just roll off the tongue?
Yes. All hail.
I've already forgot what the name was. Something with the letter set. Yes, using your weapons inside a church sounds like a sane thing to do. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I need to take a break for now because I need food. Wizard need food badly.
Gotcha.